When we're talking about developing the leader as a person, and specifically around his or her theology, we're really just talking about discipleship, right? A leadership development pipeline for your church should actually be a discipleship initiative. You can call it whatever fits the culture or the needs of your church, but as we talk about how to develop a culture of discipleship, of leadership, we need to continue to wrestle today with another why a great leader is a great leader. And in doing that, I'm gonna ask to start with you. Think about your own journey on being discipled. What really made the difference? There's a lot of good information out there, plenty of incredible books and studies, but for most of us, the answer is simple. It was a person. It was a relationship or a small group of relationships that have impacted us. Someone or someones who intentionally and consistently poured into us, and they walked alongside us. A good definition of leadership is someone a step ahead, pointing us in the right direction. Isn't that pretty similar to the man or the woman who has discipled or impacted us spiritually? That is relational discipleship. It's leadership, it's discipleship, it's both. And Jesus is the one who shows it to us best. Don't hear me wrong. Teaching and knowledge is important, but it's typically not the missing dynamic in our discipleship process. See, God designed us to grow in the context of relationships. Remember, it's not good for man to be alone. This is in our very DNA. We're made for relationships. Look at Jesus. How did he spend the majority of his time in ministry? In relationships, pouring into other people. And Jesus had a lot of followers, but he chose 12 to really dig in with, to do life with, support, encourage, confront, teach. He then told us to go and do likewise. This is the master plan of evangelism, relational discipleship. Jesus models the primary principle I want to drive home in this video, that more time with fewer people equals greater kingdom impact. More time with fewer people equals greater kingdom impact. And before you move on to the next video, slow down, because whether or not you agree with this principle will change the approach of how you develop leaders. Most of you should be feeling, yeah, that's great, but we need a lot of leaders in our churches and I'm feeling pretty stretched. I get that. Again, the church where I started nerding out on this was North Point, and it's huge. We ran into the same problem. How do we prioritize relational discipleship when we need a lot more healthy leaders like yesterday? There were 8 people on my advisory team, and we all sat with this problem for a while. You see, at a mega church, you can get a few thousand people in a room and put on an awesome program and feel pretty good about yourself, not to mention feel pretty energized. That's a very tempting road and it looks good, but it does very little to actually shape the culture of the church. So we decided that we would start focusing on the small instead of the big. I'll tell you, this wasn't an easy shift. Reggie Campbell is one of the most impactful men on my life, and as a mentor, he was on that advisory team. Reggie is the one who taught me and modeled this principle that more time with fewer people equals greater kingdom impact. And as he grew to trust this principle, he reorganized his time, his talents, and his treasures to align with it. He was fully bought in, and after witnessing the impact and legacy of his life at his funeral a few years ago, let's just say he was definitely onto something. Under his wisdom, the advisory team agreed that we would slow down and each deeply invest in a smaller group of people over the next year, that we would work together to learn from others, learn from each other, share best practices, and figure out what worked and didn't work. We would gather people in the church who weren't leading, but who showed a personal faith and hunger to grow in their faith and pour into them as future or potential leaders of our church. We would help each other intentionally invest in them over the next year with 3 goals in mind: that they would have time to wrestle with their view of God and themselves, that they would have a model of an exceptional leader, and that they would have an experience of authentic community. So with these 3 goals in mind, we started with the men in our church before moving to women and couples in order to test this out. We each gathered a group of 6 to 8 men a season behind us with a co-leader, and the transformation we saw was amazing. Within a year, we had a new problem. The men's team at North Point had a first in the 20 plus years of men's, women's, and married groups at 5 different campuses. We had too many leaders and not enough people to fill their groups. And they were the most intentionally developed leaders in our church. I got calls from the student ministries and the married team asking what we were doing differently. This was beyond cool for me, and I'm a huge R&D nerd. And here I was, getting to read through over 500 surveys of participants and their spouses to understand what had worked and what had not worked. I got to work with over 50 of the most impressive leaders I had ever met, and we shared what we were learning with each other. We got to learn from and understand what differentiated one group from the next. And if that wasn't enough, I was able to work with church leaders across the country as they rolled out this initiative to help develop the quality and the quantity of leaders in their own churches. Beyond amazing and super fun. After years of seeing the impact, as well as leading 8 groups myself, I'm all in. I'm gonna be leading a group most years the rest of my life. My wife and I are leading a group with 4 younger couples right now, opening our lives and our homes to walk with them deeply over the course of 9 months. So, why am I spending one of these videos on this why of this principle of more time with fewer people to have greater kingdom impact before going on to the how, which you're waiting for? Because if you're like me, you'll be tempted to shortcut this principle because of urgency and needs. You'll be tempted to do some type of leader initiative that's shorter in duration and larger in size. You want to increase the quality and the quantity of leaders in your church? Commit to and prioritize a plan that really changes the core of the future and potential leaders in your church. Culture changing takes time, so spend more time, intentional time, with a smaller group of people. Really pour in, be present, get it right, and model the life and the leadership you're inviting them into. I say it again, but Jesus decided to change the world through a small group of committed friends. I don't think he changed his plan.